television user and most.
My name is Nicholas. I'm 79 and I live in Chicago. I'm a writer, director. I used to be a marathon runner. Now I'm a walk.
Welcome in to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 97 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. The Husker Afterparty Postgame Show is brought to you by Action Plumbing, AC and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brandt Excavating. Now, here are your hosts, Jake Bakoven and Nick Sainert.
All right, welcome in. Husker Afterparty Postgame Show, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nebraska loses to Wisconsin, 15-14. Wisconsin takes their first lead of the game with, what was that, Buck? 35 seconds left?
Yeah.
On a quarterback keeper from Graham Mertz. Nebraska falls to 3-8 on the year, and they will round out their season next week at Iowa. Nick Sander, Jake Bakoven hanging out with you guys. Feel free to chime into the show, 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline, the Sartor Heyman text line. Both of them open for you guys the entire show. We definitely want to field your phone calls. We want to get them in. Because I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts on this one. I left my house halfway through the fourth quarter thinking, you know what, Nebraska, they answered Wisconsin's first touchdown of the game with a touchdown of their own. It seemed like with a mixture of Braylon Allen being banged up and Graham Mertz not looking all that impressive. And Nebraska's defense, now they got beat a lot, but when it mattered most for 3.75 quarters, 3 3/4 of a quarter of a game. When it mattered most, Nebraska was able to get a stop. When it mattered most, Nebraska's defense was able to get a stop. However, their offense, once again, just couldn't get any consistent thing going. Once again, Nick Sander, Jake Bakoven hanging out with you guys. 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline, the Sartor Heyman text line, both those open for you guys, as well as the Sartor Heyman Jewelers video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Thanks to Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, Brandt Excavating for sponsoring the show. Bach, what are our thoughts, man?
Well, I think considering what I always hate to be the guy that comes on and says after a loss, good job. But I do want to say I think that they did a good job with the game plan, with what they had to work with, and kind of played Wisconsin's game. This is Wisconsin's game when it's under 20 points, a lot of running the ball from both teams, not a whole lot of shots taken. The wind is too much. It's cold. That's exactly what Wisconsin's program is built for. Nebraska, Mickey Joseph has made no bones about it. That's what Nebraska needs to get back to. But you can't just kind of turn that light switch on, although I wish you could. And so I thought they did a good job considering, obviously, there are things that are done right when you have a 14-3 lead over Wisconsin in the third quarter, I believe into the fourth quarter. So not a complete catastrophe. But these Wisconsin games, man, they're either blowouts where somebody's running for 300 yards on you, or they are absolute heartbreakers. And a 1-point loss certainly will fall in that category. Again, I know we're going to talk a lot about kind of what down there, the 3-and-out by Nebraska's offense, the really pathetic 2-minute scoring. Well, it was 35-second, but they only got a few yards. The play calling just very odd there. Yeah. So we'll talk about that stuff. And like you said, the defense I thought played pretty well. Nebraska got some breaks, I thought. I don't know if Herbig's, who's one of the leading sack getters in the Big Ten, is the leader, one of the best in the nations. I don't know if his targeting probably should have been. The broadcasters are a little more upset with his helmet off going on the field type of thing. That's in the rule book. I don't know why they kept complaining about that, but that slide where he tries to get out of the way and still hits Casey in the head because he's trying to get out of the way. I don't know if, so Nebraska, I thought, caught some breaks here, played a good ball game. Ultimately, it's crazy the disparity in rushing yards, because it felt like Nebraska was kind of sticking to the run game as much as they could. Obviously, they're scoring plays for passing touchdowns, but only 65 yards rushing for Nebraska today. I know a lot of that coming back off the sacks compared to 235 for Wisconsin. And, just a lot to break down here. Nebraska, a great effort on senior day, but didn't come through with the win in the end. And now that's 9 straight to the Badgers.
Yeah, they're all starting to pile up, right? We're gonna kind of dissect specific drives. Most notably the one that Nebraska took over with 4:58 to go in the ball game, and they only ran 3 plays. So we're going to talk about that one. Just talk about the offense in general, because it's just absolutely brutal every single week. This is the second time in the last 3 games that you've had a shutout in the first half. You have had a shutout and been leading at halftime. And it's the same second game where you lose. You were up 2 possessions at half and had a shutout on a team that, when down by 10 points or more, had lost their 32 games in a row. And you lost that one. And then we thought, no, there's no way. There's just no way in hell Nebraska's going to lose this one. Anthony Grant's averaging 5.1 yards per carry. The offensive line's getting just a little bit of push, which is better than what they've been able to have all 4 years under Scott Frost, and you lose it. And then now today, you're up 7-0 at half. Wisconsin is down their 1,000-yard rusher with a quarterback that is nothing above mediocre at best. And once again, you lose. Once again, you figure out a way to lose. And when I say Wisconsin did not beat Nebraska, it was not because of Nebraska's defense that they lost this game. This is a Big Ten style of game where whoever you're facing is going to have 2-3 running backs where they can get their own. And in Ches Malusi and Braylon Allen, Wisconsin has that.
Well,
and how many times in that first half did they continue to pound the rock? And here we are once again, Bach, saying, here is the blueprint. And I told you right before we came on the air, I said, everything we've talked about in the last 4 or 5 countless number of postgame shows, when we've said that the blueprint is here on how to, in Nebraska's opponents, the blueprint is here on how to compete. Maybe not win, but for Nebraska to compete in the Big Ten, the blueprint is there. Today magnified it to where, once again, talking about that drive where Nebraska took over up. They were winning with 4:58 to go in the fourth quarter. They took over on their own 14-yard line and took 1 minute and 45 seconds off the clock in 3 plays. Now, it's great that you're allowing the play clock to go down and to start, be low or whatever. It's great that you're using that time. But you can't get a single push up front. And when I talk about blueprint, that's what I'm saying, is Anthony Grant for 4 quarters. Anthony Grant did not have a super impressive game, finished with only 29 yards rushing, 1.8 yards per carry. They gave him the rock 16 times. Mm-hmm. And you could not get anything established. And there was one play, it was in the third quarter, or maybe it was early fourth quarter, that Anthony Grant was immediately met in the backfield about 4 or 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage by a Wisconsin defender, was immediately met, ran east-west, trying to stay alive, and somehow got back to the line of scrimmage. And I'm sitting here thinking, if Nebraska can get a little bit of a push, you have a competent running back that can run the football. But once again, you cannot go out there confidently every single week and say, with this offensive line, you feel good about your chances consistently over 4 quarters. Because every single time, if you run that football on 1st and 10 on that drive that they took over with 4 minutes and whatever left in the fourth quarter, up by a possession, or up by 14-9 was the score. If you get the ball, you hand it off to Anthony Grant on first down, which is the right call, but he gets a loss of 3 or 4 yards because he's immediately met in the backfield. Like there's just that does not go on Anthony Grant. Every good running back is able to make guys miss in the backfield, but every good running back doesn't have to make 4 or 5 guys miss in the backfield. And that's what Anthony Grant does. Why? Because on the backside, or on the flip side for the defense, they do gang tackling. Wisconsin, one guy knocks him down. He might not make the tackle, but he at least slows up Anthony Grant to where there's 3 or 4 guys that can come in and finish the tackle. That's one thing that Nebraska lacks on the defensive side. It's just week after week, the blueprint continues to be magnified, and we continue to get shown what Nebraska has to do to compete and win eventually in the Big Ten Conference.
Well, and again, you hope that, Trev Alberts is taking notes, and I'm sure he is, because this was the stretch when we talked about it all year long. And I think it's coming to an end. Iowa's defense is obviously in this category of one of the best in the Big Ten. But as far as a great running back, they do have a good freshman running back. But, we talked about this kind of murderer's row of Big Ten defenses and great running backs. Through the Minnesotas and the Michigans and the Wisconsins. And it's played out that way. I mean, this is not, like I said, it's not just something you can turn the switch and get going. I've thought that they've done a somewhat good job in emphasizing understanding they're not going to go out there and score 35 points. And so they've embraced that rule. They've started to, run the ball more than pass the last couple games, and it's kept them in the game. So again, I tip the hat to the coaches. Not every play call, certainly not that 2-minute drill at the end. You're always going to be upset with certain play calls here and there, but this is stuff that even a bad Wisconsin team, it just doesn't fade away from them. This type of that line play, that grinding it out, gang tackling, that stuff that's been around Wisconsin. They got a 20-year bowl streak now extended. That's been there that whole time. So Nebraska, for you to realize in the middle of your season, oh, that's how we need to switch. That's how we need to play the Big Ten. That's something that needs to be emphasized as a program, not as a team. That needs to be emphasized in the offseason, every offseason. And so you can't just turn it on and try to play with them their type of game. I mean, you can, but it's going to be difficult. And that's what Nebraska's done. And I think it's been the best attempt at getting a win. And, of course, they had to go to the air a little bit more because, that's just the exact point. I mean, we've complained that Nebraska hasn't given Anthony Grant the ball more. And at certain times, they've been able to run better than they have against Wisconsin. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But I'm a run the ball guy through and through. But if you can't run the ball up the middle, and you just can't, you tried 16 times. Casey, once again, just much like Purdy last week, scrambling is your best running play.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Buck. I would disagree a little bit. I understand if you can't find success running the ball, you have to throw the ball, right, to be successful. I understand with that. I would say, though, that and disagree to a certain extent to where you put yourself in a position from what you decided to run, how you decided to execute, not being able to execute early on in the game. You put yourself into a position where you were only up 14-9 in the fourth quarter, where you have to throw in to a 35, 40 mile an hour gust. That's on you. And then you come out and the game management, the play call to run a drag route across the middle of the field on your 45-second drill or possession, 35-second possession to win the game. And you throw it 5 yards in the middle of the field to Marcus Washington.
And don't call timeout. You wait 5 seconds
to call a timeout. The mismanagement, the play call, the execution is piss poor. It has been.
But Nebraska, it is, and it has been the last couple of years, and you would hope with Casey in there that this would change. But this is not a 2-minute offense. This is not a methodical offense. Their touchdown drive they got in the second half was largely just because of those 2 personal fouls that I don't want to say just because, but 30 yards of it is because of the 2 personal fouls that Wisconsin had. Nebraska, outside of that drive and outside of those penalty yards, I don't know if they got 100 yards in the second half. They were just shut down.
But once again, think about it this way, Buck, and Eric and Matthew on the phones, we'll get to you here in just a moment. When we put everything together and we look at it, take away the magnifying glass and look at it as a bigger picture here. Think about this. On that last drive of the game, they throw it to Marcus Washington right off the bat for 5 yards. Why? We didn't see downfield, but we're assuming that Wisconsin either had a blanket on Trey Palmer, doubled Trey Palmer. Why? Because Nebraska needs to find balance. They need to find complementary football in run pass, in pass run, whatever percentage you want to do. I don't care, but you got to find balance into where You don't need to have a receiver go for 2 touchdowns to keep you in the game. You don't need a quarterback to run and be your leading rusher just based on scrambles every single Saturday to win a game. That is where Nebraska has been so messed up in recent years, is that it's always been when things go bad, you can have a guy that's way better, but here's the deal. You always got to go, like Nebraska's always had to go to Stanley Morgan Jr. or Samori Toure or now Trey Palmer. There's nobody else. There is nobody else. You have guys, Travis Vokalek is plenty capable, but then you have to worry about drops. You have to worry about defenses making adjustments, which in the Big Ten they do. And you just have to worry about your own execution, which has been subpar for X amount of years. It's just so frustrating every single week. Every single week.
I love how frustrated you get.
Well, but here's the deal, because there is no way, we say it every single time we do this show, there's no way you should have lost to Minnesota. There's no way you should have lost to Illinois. There's no way you should have lost to Wisconsin.
I don't know about any of that.
You had the blueprint in the first half, Bach.
You lost 26-9 to Illinois.
Okay, Illinois is different because Casey Thompson got hurt.
You had leads in these games. I mean, I can understand why you say there's no way you couldn't lose, but you're scoring like 14 points a game. You're not giving yourself much leeway there. It's not like you're blowing anybody out. So, I mean, I understand, but
you're not
they
going
could have made
in the
plays
Big Ten.
there.
You're not going to blow people out.
Well, you can, but yeah, I mean,
okay, Ohio State.
Well, Illinois beat Nebraska 26-9. They made the plays that they needed to get enough space. Michigan beat Nebraska plenty. There's some blowouts. I get what you're saying. It's going to be certain plays here and there, but again, I've been very clear about what I want with the program moving forward, but that wasn't the plan coming into the year. In fact, it was the opposite of that. So when you run these flashy offenses that you're bringing in for the last two coaching, tenures you had, and then you have an offensive coordinator that's pass happy that you bring in, and then you just want to flip that 3 weeks in, 3 weeks in, things aren't going well, and now you want to play Big Ten football. If it was that easy, everybody would just switch when they need to. It's difficult, to learn how to win these games. That's why again, Wisconsin has the edge in this kind of rugged 15-14 type of game because they've been there. This is what they do. Mm-hmm. Nebraska's trying to learn how to win in that, and certainly now under Mickey Joseph, going to have to learn how to win a game, how to finish off a game if you have the lead. And they're going to have a chance, one more chance against Iowa. I think we're all not expecting a blowout there. I think it'll be a close game, especially if Casey's in there. And hopefully they can send us to the offseason feeling pretty good about ourselves with one final victory. But I understand how frustrating and maybe even how hard that is to believe, considering Nebraska just doesn't seem to get those plays when they need them in the final couple minutes. They haven't for years.
All right, we got full phone lines. Craig says, stop whining, Nick, and answer the phone. The full phone lines are full, so let's get to them. Let's go to Eric first up. Eric, appreciate you being patient. What's on your mind?
Hey, guys, no problem. That was a tough one, and you guys have already addressed most of what I was going to talk about.
That's right. Say it anyway.
Being a pass-happy offense, we've been that for far too long now. The odd play calls down the stretch, obviously, poor clock management. I thought the first half went okay. I liked the game plan. I liked what Mickey was doing. I liked how he was patient, and we punted a couple of times on 4th and short, but I liked it. It reminded me of back in the day with Osborne. That's something he would have done. And even though the announcers were, maybe second guessing that, I didn't. I liked it. I liked the conservative play call there, and we were up at the end of the first half. Now I want to get your guys' opinions on this. One thing that stuck out to me was when Garrett Nelson went down, we were still in pretty good shape. We were still doing good defensively. We were up 14-9. And I don't know the extent of his injury, but he did come back a few plays later and he stuffed the quarterback there when they went for 2. So I don't think he was too hurt. But when he did go down, I felt like that was an extra timeout when he was on the turf. And not only that, we had maybe a dozen guys out there at the same time surrounding him. And it was one of those things where we just gave them all kinds of time to think about what to do next. And as you saw, as soon as he ran off the field there, what did they do on the next play? They completed that pass. I don't know how long the pass was. It had to be about 20 yards or so down inside the 10-yard line. I thought that's what killed us. We gave them an extra time out there, but I'll get your guys' opinions on it, and I'll hang tight.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the phone call. I will spin it in this way. I was frustrated. I would understand where an injury can give him a timeout. I don't know if there's much you can do about it when a guy's down on the field. I would spin it this way. Nebraska used a timeout, unfortunately, at the end of the game on their final drive that eventually the clock hit 0 on, and you took a sack on second down after a putrid call on first down to where you throw a drag route on
middle of the field
to Marcus Washington for 5 yards. And then there's discombobulation trying to get the ball set. You call a timeout, right, for what you needed to, and you take a sack out of the timeout because, number one, you don't get rid of the ball, and number two, nobody gets open. And that was what was the most frustrating to me. When we talk about extra timeouts, game management, not utilizing timeouts, I would like to know the conversations that were had within those timeouts of what the goal was, besides get open.
Right. Yeah. Coming out of a timeout and getting a sack wasn't ideal. Again, sometimes that's, you want to make the right play call there, but it is about execution. It is about decision making in that time too. Maybe everything, I'm assuming the drag route was, your third, fourth option on that play. And it really just can't happen at that time. You got 35 seconds. You need to be past the sticks if you're running anything over the middle, because in college football, obviously the time will stop if you get a first down, or you need to be running toward the sideline. Those are your choices, or you're taking a huge risk and you need to break a tackle. And so, that was bad. That was not good. That with 35 seconds, they just didn't get anything done. But again, they didn't get much done in the second half. This is not an offense. Obviously, this is the 6th out of 8 games under Mickey Joseph that they've not scored more than 14 points. This is not an offense you want out there trying to get points with 35 seconds left. So that's not the strength. It was very clear that it wasn't. I like the timeout they used on defense. I like them trying to bow up at the goal line. I thought that was probably, given what we were just talking about with their offense and what we saw, that was probably their best chance to win. But it just didn't happen. Graham Mertz got in.
I would also add that, sitting here, once again, when Wisconsin had the ball after Nebraska punted and they got at their 50-yard line with just a couple minutes left in the game, everything that Wisconsin did in the first, second quarter and their inability at that time to run the ball, or their struggle to run the ball, it pays dividends in the fourth quarter in those moments, because you have spent 3.5 quarters wearing down Nebraska's defense that up until that point was a whole bend, don't break. They got pushed around a lot, but they made some key wins on third down. They forced some key incompletions. The Wisconsin wide receivers stepped out of bounds a couple times. If you're a Wisconsin fan, you're saying we did not deserve to win this game, but here we are. We won it because the better team just figures out a way to win the game at the end of the day. And their ability to get the push up front in the later stages of the fourth quarter in Nebraska territory was a result of the ineffectiveness and the inability to run the ball in the first half, but sticking with it with their workhorses. It pays dividends, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead, Bach.
Oh, no, it is. It was just impressive, again, when you say, what do you want to look like? Wisconsin's bigs and Braylon Allen's decision-making, his extra yardage that he fought for, again, reminiscent of Nebraska back in the 90s and the early 2000s. And it was just, it was to a degree, if you like that time as a Nebraska fan, it was kind of cool to see, the fullback and back out there and the running plays that Nebraska used to run. But that's the mentality that they run, is, wear you down by the end of the fourth quarter. And they did. They had a lot more success there in the second half getting going. Again, first half shutout from the defense. And there's a lot of guys to highlight. But the other thing too is Graham Mertz is an enigma, isn't he? He's an arm talent that isn't a good quarterback. And he'll have about 3 or 4 plays a game like he did today that are just great throws. And then he'll have a bunch most of the game where he's not making great throws, not great decisions. His interception, he had 2 guys open, and he threw it right to Hartzog. So, I mean, he is just it's weird to see as he is not developed, but he still can just make some really good throws when they needed him to there. And, just had a few more than Nebraska did in the end.
Let's go back to the Honda of Lincoln hotline, 402-464-5685. We got Matthew on the line. Matthew, thanks for being patient. What's on your mind, man?
Oh, so many things.
Let's hear them.
You guys have hit on most of the topics, but I have to take issue with Eric completely. The conservative play calling was terrible. And to me, that's exactly why Mickey Joseph is not going to get a shot at it. And I don't want him to get a shot at it because he came up under Tom Osborne. That's all he knows. Early in the game, you're on the 49-yard line, give or take, 4th and 1.5. Even the announcers were like, yeah, they're going to go for it. I knew they weren't going for it because Mickey Joseph is a Tom Osborne disciple. That's what he knows. This late in the season, with this type of season, you go for that and just reckless abandon. You need wins. You can't play the long game anymore. You've got to just try it and go for it and risk it. No risk it, no biscuit. And you know what? The 4th down or the goal line stand where they were goal and 2 yards to go, their offensive line pushed our defensive line all the way into the end zone. And with a quarterback sneak, not even a running back, and they score a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That sealed his fate. I mean, how can you possibly allow that to happen? That's basically Nebraska, 20 years ago, like you said, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the play calling was terrible. I mean, it was just terrible. I don't blame the play calling for that throw over the middle on that last drive because that had to be Casey Thompson, 2nd or 3rd read. Now, sure, he should have run a deeper route, but I doubt that was his first read. But you got to know, Casey Thompson, you can't throw that ball there.
Yeah.
You've got to just throw it in the dirt because that's not going to get you anything. I mean, when it was 14-9, I knew this game's over because we could not move the ball at all in the second half.
Yeah.
Typical Nebraska. Whatever they're doing for a game plan, they cannot seem to adjust because after the first quarter, they come out good, but once the other team figures out what we're doing, we're done the rest of the game. They just can't do anything. And I just don't think those coaches have any idea what they're doing now.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate the phone call. I would say this, let's talk about that decision across the middle of the field real quick with Casey Thompson. Let's say it was his 2nd and 3rd read. Probably you could throw it out of bounds, throw it away, stops the clock forever until you snap it. The next play, you have plenty of time because in that point of the game, what good does 5 yards give you? Nothing. It doesn't help you. I mean, field goal, yes, wins the game, but if it was an out route to the boundary, if it was a corner post to the boundary, or if it was a post to the boundary, then that's fine. Then throw that ball, get it out, whatever, take a risk. Okay, that's great. Also, if it would get more than 5 yards, okay, then it's okay to throw that ball if it's your 2nd or 3rd option. But this is why Nebraska went out and got an experienced quarterback in the portal. This is why they couldn't just stick with Chubba Purdy. I mean, that is unfortunately, Bach, that might be a freshman type of decision to throw that ball across the middle just because you see him open with 35 seconds left in the game. Like you, at some point, once again, I don't like the play call, or I don't like, the decision, I suppose. But at some point, it comes down to the execution. Like you got to execute. And Nebraska has not been able to consistently for 4 quarters, whether it's the push on the offensive line, whether it's running the football, whether it's passing the football, you just haven't been able to. And that's where if you're Casey Thompson, having all this experience under your belt, not only at Nebraska, but also at Texas, you've played a lot of football. And at some point that IQ has to kick in to where in that split second, don't throw it across the middle to Marcus Washington, who's 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. And your guys that are running fly patterns 30 yards down the field are going to have to run all the way back before you can snap it. but rather it's more valuable. The time is more valuable there in that situation than those 5 seconds or 5 yards.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that he probably knew that too. And at times you do want to give your playmakers the ball. You try to break one, get the first down, and get going. And it didn't play out like that. If you remember the Hail Mary that Nebraska, I'm going way back, but the RK3 Hail Mary to Jordan Westerkamp. You remember Abdullah had to break like 3 tackles once on 4th down to get a first down for that drive to be extended. And but it was a first down. It's not like a last second, like at least somebody gets the ball type of situation. But that's a guy that came over from Texas with him, has made some plays, made some catches for him this year. Maybe he's just trying to get a playmaker the ball. Hopefully he could break a tackle. But again, you got to be ready for that if you're Nebraska. You've got to call timeout right away. I know that when he threw the ball, it hit the Wisconsin player's helmet or whatever, the ref didn't get it, and they even gave Nebraska time back for that. But you've got to know right away if you're gonna take the risk of having somebody run underneath the sticks and they don't get the first down, you got to call timeout like right away.
Yeah,
there's no hurrying to the line because you're losing 7 seconds when you have 35 seconds and 2 timeouts. You just don't have too many outs. So I mean, they need to work on that. And I think it'll just depend on where you stand with the conservative play calling. I liked it. I thought that this is that's the Big Ten West way. To me, to stay in this game, and it did. They ended up, having a 14-3 lead after not, punting, playing field position on an offense that they weren't too scared of. That their defense was handling pretty well. I like that, but you could also look at it the other way. You're not going to the bowl game. You're at this point probably not getting the job unless you really change things at the end. So I could see it either way. I kind of liked it, and I think it helped them stay in the game. But if you just playing the result like we do a lot, is that Nebraska ultimately lost. So maybe you would have liked to change it. But again, to me, that conservative play calling early on led to them later having the 14-3 lead or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt. I would also. Matthew said that he knew when it was 14-9, Nebraska was going to lose that game. I wouldn't go that far. When Wisconsin took over, or I should say, once again, the decision-making by both the coaches and the players on their second to last drive, the one that they got the ball back with 4 minutes and some change, ran 3 plays and ended up punting it away into the wind. That was the drive that I sat there after seeing that one unfold. That's when I knew, well, we know how this one's going to end. Wisconsin's going to have 3.5 minutes to go down the field, and they're going to use 3 minutes of it, and they are going to punch it in. And they did that. They did that exact same thing because we know who Wisconsin is. Wisconsin has been missing one of their best targets on the offensive side of the ball for, I think, 3/4 of the season right now. Clay Cundiff, one of their tight ends. He's he's a tight end that replaced Jake Ferguson a couple years ago. He is that guy. And we know in Wisconsin's offense how valuable tight ends are, right? Because it's similar to Iowa, similar to Minnesota, similar to those Big Ten West teams, to where it's you pound the football with your running back, and then that opens up the play action passing game. And here we are once again, where Nebraska, Wisconsin didn't even have their tight end. Braylon Allen was, who knows how healthy Braylon Allen was, and yet you still allowed them to use their identity to beat you when you knew what was going to happen. You knew what was going to happen. If you asked Mickey Joseph, hey, what did you think Wisconsin was going to do when they got the ball back on your side of the 50 with 3.5 minutes to go in the game? He's not going to say Graham Mertz throw the ball. That's not what's going to happen.
Well, they did need a big pass play.
They needed a big pass play. But for the most part, Bach, the entire game, they just continued to run the ball.
Yeah, I mean, Graham Mertz, I think Leonard, total had 83 passing yards, or what was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the deal. It's like, Jim Leonard's the same way. Jim Leonard's an interim head coach fighting for the job, or fighting for a job, whether it's Wisconsin's head coaching job or somewhere else. They're in the same. Jim Leonard and Mickey Joseph are in very similar positions to where they're fighting for a job at their institution. And here you are, once again, game management kind of goes against Mickey Joseph, unfortunately, and Jim Leonard stayed patient and did what they usually do as a program, and they were able to get the win.
But if Nebraska had, they're in similar situations that they're interims, but they're not in similar situations of what the program they're taking over.
No, I agree.
I mean, Wisconsin, again, this is their 20th straight bowl game, all with the same recipe. So you don't have to change anything there. Nebraska's trying to change the recipe to play with the Big Ten West. And that's going to be difficult to do. And so I still think it was a pretty well managed game for Nebraska's coaching staff. I think it was a pretty well played game from the guys that they have out there still fighting on senior day, and you come up with a 1-point loss. It's heartbreaking. And you just want one moment. And maybe it was Indiana and we didn't take enough granted for that. You just want one. Feels a little more elevated than that if you're Nebraska over, since I guess the Mike Riley win over Michigan State when they were 3-6. I didn't feel much better. Suppose you could go a year later with that, but you just want a moment to feel better. So, sometimes I feel like we're piling on frustrations from games past onto the current game. And we probably are. And maybe it's fair that we should at this point, but that was a tough game. If you tell me before the game, Nebraska, Wisconsin, it's going to be coming down to the final minute, I'd say, let's give it a shot. Give it a shot.
I suppose so. Let's go back to the phone lines. We got John on the line. John, what's up, man? Thanks for holding.
Hey guys, remember back in the 90s and everybody said, let's throw the ball. Running the ball is boring. Well, today, if we could have ran the ball at all with our line that's subpar, way subpar, we had 4 minutes to saw away that game. But we could not muster a running game for anything.
Yeah.
This game was lost up front all day long. It was lost up front early because Casey Thompson didn't have enough time to throw the ball. He led our team in rushing because he had to. The holes were there. He didn't have time to throw the ball. I mean, if our linemen would get mean and nasty like they used to be, we would have won this game, salted it away in the fourth quarter, but like we've always done. That's where the games are won and lost, all of them, up front on both sides. That's all I got.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we get this text on the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. The same number, excuse me. The Honda of Lincoln hotline. Give us a call. We got Russ and Lincoln here coming up in a moment. We get this text. Come on, guys. Defending this coaching effort and the play calling was bad. And this is just embarrassing. 62 rushing yards and 106 passing yards. I'm not defending anything right now with this program. I'm not, Buck.
I suppose the way, and it's probably more on me because I am somewhat, happy with the effort today. Thought they played hard, all that stuff. I'm not saying that in the terms of from the 90s Husker fan. And I've been there. I know what that program was. I loved it. It was awesome to be top 5. It was awesome to argue, be right in the mix at this time in the year. I'm talking about you were 3-9 last year. You're 3-8 this year. You're not a good program. And in terms of not being a good program, of having an interim coach, of having to fire a coach after 3 games, of having to, for some reason, bring that coach back at 3-9 and throwing a bunch of different things at the wall and seeing if it would work. I will continue to say, I don't think that this idea was put together to begin with. I'm saying with all of that in mind, to having to come to a 1-point loss against a Wisconsin team, playing a game the Wisconsin way, which it used to be the Nebraska way, and I know that's what frustrates fans, and I want it to be the Nebraska way again, but that's an uphill battle, and they fought uphill, and they ended up losing, and I understand they had the lead here, which adds to the frustration, and I'm frustrated too. I mean, 9 straight to Wisconsin. Again, when you go back to those times of being late 90s, early 2000s, to have imagined losing 9 straight to anybody. I mean, we'd beat Kansas 40 straight years. We'd beat Missouri 42 straight years or whatever they were. And now Nebraska's on the opposite end of that and just getting shellacked, or they're heartbroken out against Wisconsin. I mean, I understand the frustration. I mean, it's how old were you in 2012? I mean, I would like to go look at 11, the number one song at that time, gas prices, all that stuff. It's getting that long that you could almost do that sort of thing.
I think what's crazy, unfortunately, somebody says you didn't, or a name texter says on this on the text line, you didn't need some miracle play. You didn't need to score. You needed maybe 3 first downs, and this offense couldn't do it. And it was mostly due to the offensive line. Yeah, like that's what's frustrating is this was a 5-5 Wisconsin team. And that's where, once again, this is not a team discussion. This is not us harping on the lack of talent on Nebraska, because I would argue that once again, Nebraska has more potential and talent on this team. But from a program standpoint, they are not in a position, and they do not understand, and they have not been taught, and they have not been cultivated on how to win games like that. They haven't been taught how to get 3 first downs with 4 minutes left in the game. They haven't. And that is a direct reflection of previous coaching staffs. And we get this off the text line once again of blaming this on the coaches is such a low-hanging fruit with what they've been asked to do. And I get that. I truly understand that. And that's where it's like, I don't want to blame, like I'm not, everything I say specifically, I'm not tying solely to Mickey Joseph. I'm not tying solely to Donovan Raiola. I'm tying to the Nebraska program, because you can pick it apart if we truly want to. Like, look at the offensive line, for example. You could say the same thing about all the coaches that got here this season of, this is not Donovan Raiola's fault that the offensive line and the offensive line depth is this bad, but it is his fault that it hasn't progressed from week 0 to week 11. But again, once again, it's what you've been dealt with, and you have to grasp at straws. And Nebraska, eventually, there's going to be a time where you have to stop allowing yourself to do that.
But again, it's not just what you're dealt with. Look at what you're doing to change that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not blaming Donovan Raiola either.
No, that's just the name that, obviously, with the offensive line being so controversial, that's what I was.
But to my point here is pay attention to the offseason. I know we all love the flashy moves, and you might get a 1,000-yard receiver, and you might get a 1,000-yard running back out of it. That's all. I mean, those are things that are needed. But what was needed more last year, after watching that whole season, we all watched it, the offensive line was the weakness. And what they did in the offseason was not get anybody that was going to contend for starting spots on the offensive line. Despite all the flashy additions they got in the portal, it wasn't on the offensive line.
You went out and got Hunter Anthony.
And then they went out and got a coach. And this, again, nothing against Donovan Raiola, but a coach that this is his first position coach job at college. Yeah. Offensive line should have been priority number one.
Leading the room.
Leading the room.
Yes. Yeah.
Offensive line after last season in the Big Ten. Well, you watched it all last season, and then in the Big Ten should have been priority number one. It seemed to really fall down the priorities, or maybe they just couldn't get it done or whatever it was, but that's why you're still here.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what's going to need to be changed coming in next year. And I understand there's not a lot of great offensive linemen in the portal. And usually you kind of think that with offensive lines, it takes a while to get them going. And that's somewhat of the fear. But I guess the reverse of that is that Nebraska has been close with all these teams with a pretty, we say subpar, pretty bad offensive line. If they can just get it back up to middle of the pack in the Big Ten, you would think that they'd be to get over the line and maybe get some wins here. But that's just something, again, that I thought this offseason that was overlooked. We always talk about, he won the offseason. How? He lost. Not only that, you lost two of your best offensive linemen. One going to the pros, it's understood, but still, you could have brought him back. He had eligibility. Then you lose your third best offensive lineman pretty quickly in the season. So I mean, it's just the depth's not there, the top end talent's not there, the dedication and the program value of winning in the trenches has not been there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so frustrating. We're getting a lot of questions about the future, coaches, coaching decisions. When we might hear, we'll get to all that down the road here. Once again, Nebraska loses 15-14. They led for I guess it would be 55 minutes and 25 seconds.
Well, they didn't lead.
They didn't lead.
Yeah. They weren't trailing.
They weren't trailing. They trailed for a total of 35 seconds in this game. And they ended up losing 15-14 against the Wisconsin Badgers. But we do have to take our first time out of the show. Shout out to Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brant Excavating. It's the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show. Russ and Lincoln and Steve. We will get to you guys right after the commercial break, but we do have to take a commercial since it is the top of the hour, and we will do that. We'll be here for approximately another hour or so, taking you up to 4 o'clock before we hand it off to the folks over at the Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill, for the second postgame show. And I know Jake and the guys out there will have plenty of thoughts as we continue to navigate this roller coaster of a season. Another one, roller coaster of a season, and we'll see what happens going forward here. Maybe we hear something Monday. Maybe we hear something the following Saturday. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll dive into all that. Maybe hear from the interim head coach, Mickey Joseph, coming up next as well. Husker After Party Postgame Show, 93.7 The Ticket.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Hey, who caught that ball? That field goal was good, right? Is the scoreboard fuzzy to anyone else?
Dude, you have got to get your eyes checked, man.
If you're noticing that the game is getting a little tougher to follow, it might be time for a checkup at Premier Vision. They have state-of-the-art equipment, a variety of frames, and great lens options. Visit Premier Vision today, just south of Van Dorn at 84th and Firethorn.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly schedules a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Tractor Supply is looking for full-time members for their Waverly Distribution Center. Tractor Supply has a new progressive pay model where team members receive 5 wage increases in the first 2 years of employment with the ability to earn up to $24 per hour. Applicants can expect a 3- and 4-day work week schedule with additional overtime days with both day and night shift schedules available. At Tractor Supply, they work hard, have fun, and make money. Apply today at tractorsupply.jobs.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
Think about what you just said. So it's totally reliant on three-pointers going in. What kind of program is that?
They shoot a lot of them. They shot 27.
What kind of program are you if that's what it is?
Nebraska's not a very good program. That's very evident.
What kind of program says we have to hit our threes? That's just a crapshoot team. Then that's all that is.
What is Nebraska? Aren't they a crapshoot team?
Then that's all that is.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's postgame show and the final word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's postgame show and the final word. Live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Look at your car. It's filthy and probably has a few dings and nicks all over it. Don't be that guy. Get it upgraded and repaired at Renew Your Auto. At Renew Your Auto, they offer tons of services: ceramic coating, window tinting, paintless dent repair, washes and details, bed liners, body shop, and more. Where can you go to get services like that all in one place? Schedule your appointment today at renewyourauto.com. See what Renew can do for you.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red.
place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling, check. Arcade, check. Laser tag, check. Mini golf, check. Sand volleyball, cornhole, bocce, food, drinks, check, 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 check. The newly renovated Sun Valley Lanes and Games has something fun to offer for guests of all ages.
Win prizes in the arcade or challenge your friends in one of the many attractions.
Plan a night of fun by reserving your spot online at sunvalleylanes.com.
Sun Valley.
The captain, Vershawn Jackson.
As a player, what do you think when your coach says they need to recruit better? Do you take it personal? You should. Go ahead, bro.
It should be personally because they're looking at a guy that wants to come in and take your spot. It only makes you play better. We need people here to push these kids to make each other better, not just coaches making them better, but they can make each other better on the field by the competition that they give each other. I think without no competition, kids get relaxed and their positions are never up for grabs.
A good game with good friends. But isn't it time to up the score when it comes to the food? Wings and Rings is here for every football fan. Catch the game on one of their big screens or snag a tailgate pack to go. They're cranking up the heat and throwing in mad flavor this season. Stop by your locally owned Wings and Rings on O Street, Meridian Park, or 48th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village, or grab some crave-worthy Wings and Rings to go. Make them your go-to destination to watch your team bring home the win. Wings and Rings. Game time just got better.
Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're going to come back next week, and we're going to play hard again and look for a different result. Just didn't happen today. This one hurts.
This one hurts. Mickey Joseph talking post-game. Nebraska falls 15-14 to the Wisconsin Badgers. Nick Sainer, Jake Bachhoven. Back with you guys on the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Let's go to the phone lines. We got Russ in Lincoln. Hopefully he's still there. Russ, are you there, man? Russ? All right, sorry, Russ. Russ, go ahead and give us a call back. Sorry, man. I had to wait through that commercial break. Let's go to Steve here. Steve, are you there, man?
Hey, yeah. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
No problem. What's on your mind, Steve?
With a couple games ago, you can't play conservative. That's the way you get beat. It's all guns forward. You can't, not looking back. You're trying to win the game. You got two incidents in the first half where you got a yard and a half for a first down. You got a big, huge tight end. He can take 3 steps, turn around, you got the first down. Also, another play they could run that they never run, they could tighten up their stance. We ran 3 years of football where we ran a wedge formation. We never got stopped for less than 2 yards. You could go down there in 1 week, go shoulder pad to shoulder pad. You either wedge right, wedge left. You pick it up every time. I don't care what your offensive line is like. If you're shoulder pad to shoulder pad and you got all that weight pushing forward, you're going to pick up the first down. I knew when they didn't go for the yard and a half twice in the first half that they were just trying to keep it close, and that's the way you lose games. Not only that, they ran the ball the majority of the time. I'm talking about Wisconsin. And when's the last time you've seen no holding calls through a whole game when the team pretty much runs the ball every play? On that last drive, they not only tackled our guy, they had a hold of his leg, and he was trying to get up off the ground. I don't know if anybody caught that. As they went for the first down, they were actually tackling our defensive end, or whatever they call them on that line nowadays. They switch them around, but it was ridiculous. I mean, not only, like I said, they were knocked him to the ground. He's trying to get up, and they're holding his leg. I mean, what's up with that? I mean, you got to play above the calls, but that was just completely ridiculous. And I think Mickey knows he's on the way out. He just wanted to play, not completely gone, but he's not going to be the head coach, and he just wanted to keep the game close. I mean, he wanted the kids to, play hard, which they did. The defense played pretty decent, but did we even touch the quarterback? Did we even get a hand on the quarterback?
There
were 4 quarters.
There were a couple times like hurries, but in terms of explicitly getting to Graham Mertz, no.
No. And why is that? They've got, 80 players on that team? We can't find one player that's fast enough to get to the quarterback. I mean, yeah, they got people blocking, but a couple times we ran right by him. A couple times we were held again, which I know you got to play above the officials, but it's just ridiculous. We can't get anybody to the quarterback, just game after game after game. we can't get a hand on these guys consistently. And I've been pretty disappointed with the last few games, but I mean, I know, Whipple needs to go because he's just not getting it done. He's not seeing, even from the press box, he's not seeing what needs to be done to keep us in these games. It's just time to make a cut. But that's all I got, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for being patient as well. 402-464-5685. We got one phone line open. Feel free to give us a call. Give us your thoughts here. We'll get to Cameron here in a moment. I mean, Buck, here's the deal. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can point to and say it's subpar right now for Nebraska standards. Unfortunately, I wanted to read this crazy statistic here in another college football game. Navy beats 20th ranked UCF 17-14 today. Have you seen the box score for this? Navy's quarterback finished the game 0 for 1.
Nice.
Navy's rushing attack had 248 yards, and Navy ran the ball on 63 of their 64 offensive plays.
Oh, you love to see it.
And they beat the 20th ranked UCF Golden Knights on the road.
But you tell me option football won't work here. Modern day.
Well, I mean, it's not fun, Buck.
Oh, it's
not
fun. Oh, it's fun.
But anyway, let's go.
By
back.
the way, if you do want a Big Mac sack, you'll get one without the quarterback having been touched, because Mathis was credited for that when he kind of threw the ball away. So
that's right.
They did get a sack.
Well,
they just didn't hit the quarterback.
What's also crazy, he mentioned the lack of holding calls. They got called for a clipping. Wisconsin got called for a clipping.
Yeah,
early in the game. But also, Steve, like, to some extent, there's probably holding on every single play. There's always that cliche term, right? But I also think that there's a lot of discipline and well-coached teams in the Big Ten West, because that's what they need to do. Because think about it. If your main offensive identity and game plan is to run the ball, one holding penalty puts you behind schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Because it forces a mediocre at best quarterback like Graham Mertz to throw the ball. And in these November games, the November games matter the most. Everybody knows that. In these games that matter the most, you do not want to throw the ball in 30 and 40 mile an hour winds. We saw what that did to a Graham Mertz pass in the first half, where Malcolm Hartzog picked it off.
How about that attempt from the first field goal attempt from Wisconsin?
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
That thing just killed it.
Yeah,
it
just died.
killed it.
And so when you have a single penalty, I mean, think about it, guys. When you have one penalty, that sets your offense completely behind schedule.
And there was, I mean, I saw a few of them again.
Yes, there were 100%.
Yeah. And so you could say that, but I always hate doing that, especially when, and when you see a play like at that time, I understand. And there are certain plays you get frustrated with about. I just don't like going back to it. One, because there's going to be missed calls every game. That's, part of kind of the human element of refereeing a football game. But two, because, often, and in this case, Wisconsin was penalized more than Nebraska. So, it just kind of comes down. I don't know if they were biased toward Wisconsin, if they're going to penalize Wisconsin more.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, Bach, I hate to be that guy, but the lack of penalties did not lose you or win you the game.
Yeah.
Right? So, unfortunately. Let's go to the phone lines. Cameron's on the line. Cameron, what's up, man? Thanks for holding on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hey, I just want to say congrats on the new facility. You guys are awesome. Love listening to y'all.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, man, we played a good Big Ten West game today. 15-14. Mickey Joseph had that, but we have absolutely no semblance of an identity on offense whatsoever. We have no idea who we want to be, how we want to do that, or how we're going to execute any of that. And I just can't. I don't know where we're at with that. Like, I don't know if that's a leftover from ScoPro. I don't know what that is, but we just have to decide who we're going to be and who we want to be on offense, because we can play the D, we can play a Big Ten West football game, but we have absolutely nothing to show confidence in on offense. And it's truly humiliating. And I just want to see what y'all think about that.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah. I mean, I think coming over from Scott Frost, the identity was Adrian, you do it. And so it was like so quarterback dependent for so long. And it's kind of the same thing now. I mean, and a lot of this, again, it's hard to have an identity when you can't trust your offensive line to pass protect or run block. Then I don't know where that's the problem. That's where you can't rely on anything.
Well, once again, you're grasping at straws of which is the better of the two.
Right. And which is more consistent, which is going to be better for that matchup. They're both not going to be great. So, I mean, I completely agree. And that's why, this Nebraska team and this offense feels so lost, and that's why they're just not scoring points. But it was good to get Casey Thompson back. I mean, I think that I don't think Nebraska's probably as close or in this game without Casey Thompson, but you saw it without him. It's the same thing. Even though he's not the running threat that Adrian was, completely different type of player, your offense is once again, the identity is all quarterback, bail us out. And whether that's Adrian, running, or Casey bailing you out with a few deep passes, there's nothing consistent there. And again, though, I mean, it's easy to criticize play calling, but it's hard to play call when you don't know from play to play what you're going to get out of your offensive line. And that's been holding this program back for years. And we say it over and over again, and people get frustrated that, we're saying the same thing. Well, it's there. You see it play out again, and it just happens every game. So that's very clearly, and I know we're not getting to the next coaching staff, but whoever's taking over this program, it's no secret. It's no secret here locally. It's no secret in the Big Ten. If Nebraska wants to get back to competing, they got to compete on the lines, and that's got to be the area of focus number one with the hire in my mind, and with what the hire does immediately. If the hire has a different specialty, whatever, but it's not going to go unless you get that offensive line going.
Talking about that offensive line, what's crazy, Bach, there was a moment earlier in the game where they threw that little dump off to Chancellor Brewington, the little misdirection that they scored a touchdown on a couple weeks ago. They threw it to Chancellor Brewington again today. He got stopped, I think, 8 or after a 7 or an 8 yard gain. Why? Because Brock Bando couldn't block a guy.
Yeah, he had 3 blockers out in front of him.
He had 3
the
blockers.
Crowd roared.
2
they saw
of the 3 guys
potential.
got their block.
Yeah,
but you need 3, and that's where it's execution. That's where it's execution. And here's the deal: Brock Bando was in this position. He was there.
Oh yeah.
You just didn't get the job done. Like you allowed the guy to go right past you. And I remember trying to rewind on my TV just so I could watch it again. And I was like, you were in position. You had it. And who knows how long Chancellor Brewington goes. But it's frustrating. It's so frustrating because it's like you're one step away on some of these plays, but one guy doesn't do their job. One guy does not do their job. Casey Thompson said this in the postgame on how he was able to play and why he decided to come back to play. You'll like this, Buck. Quote, because of my love for the game and I love this team, I wanted to come back and play. I still don't have full feeling in my pinky and my bottom of my hand, though.
Boy, and he wasn't sliding. He was taking hits. I mean, he slid here and there, but to hear that now, I mean, that's kind of crazy. And you knew he wasn't 100%, but I thought that was, he was intentionally not sliding. Like he was wanting to take on contact.
Yeah.
And did get hit a few times with sacks. Interesting with the senior walk before the game. I already saw kind of quotes come out about if he's going to come back, and maybe a lot of it depends on Mickey, and he'd have to start a graduate study program if he's going to do that.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah.
Another one, yeah.
So I don't know. And, O'Shawn walked before the game if you're kind of tracking that sort of stuff. So some of the key pieces that they got for this season, though it hasn't played out perfectly, they would be obviously a much better team moving forward if they bring those guys back, or at least you have less holes to fill in the transfer portal. And I don't know. Hopefully we don't see. I think Casey Thompson wins our hearts again for his toughness. But again, it's not translating to wins on the field.
Yeah.
With all the holes around him.
So somebody asks, Pecan Pie says all these linemen are back besides Trent Hickson, right? So Trent Hickson and Brock Bando, as well as Noah Stefersky, were and it's a couple other walk-ons. Were the offensive linemen that walked, but mainly the 2 guys fighting for playing time every week, Trent Hickson and Brock Bando. They both walked. So I think Brock Bando's out of eligibility. The only 2 guys that walked that still have eligibility remaining was Casey Thompson and O'Shawn Mathis. Those were the only 2 players out of everybody that walked that still has eligibility left. So those are the only 2 that possibly could come back, barring something wild happening. Who knows how.
And a reminder, though, that Nebraska will get was at least on track. With college football now, should get Norden and Dwelly back.
That's right.
and should get Teddy Prohaska back. So that should be a little bit of a boost. Obviously, they were on the line last year, which wasn't great either. So, but they were 2 of your best linemen from last year's team.
Let's go back to the phone lines. We got Devin in North Carolina. Devin, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good to hear from you again, man. What's on your mind?
Yeah, just touching on the game real quick. I hear a lot of people reacting to the conservative play calling. To me, there's conservative and then there's smart. I think the first situation we didn't need to go for it on fourth down because it was still early in the game. The second one I would have liked to see us going for it, but I kind of understood the situation there. Like, it was still kind of early, and when you have an O line that's been playing inconsistent, up to this point, I kind of understand the play call there. Plus, your defense has been playing well, so why not trust your defense there? So, just a couple things there. Again, I look at this game, man, and we really had this one, as we've had a lot of games that should be in the win column, even under Scott Frost. This one got away from us, and primarily because, again, as I pointed to earlier, the O-line. And another caller mentioned earlier, and I like this point, we're inconsistent on offense. One moment we want to run the football a few times, the next moment we want to pass like 3-4 times in a row. After we lose a couple yards on the run play. I mean, it's just and this has really gone back even before Scott Frost. We've always struggled to find an identity on offense. We just don't. I could say going back as far as Bo Pelini. After Callahan left. Really after we got rid of Frank Coach, we haven't really had a consistent identity on offense, and it's really held this program back. And so, hopefully, going forward, whether we keep Mickey, which I think we should, by the way, or we get into the coach, that's one area we got to meet. And so that's what I'm looking at. So that's it, guys. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate it as always, man. Guy usually calls on the show. Okay, so trying to unpack that here. I've said it before, and we'll get to that coaching discussion here in a second. Probably the next segment, Buck, if you're all for it.
Yeah.
Because there's a chance we find out Monday. There's a chance we find out next Saturday. There's a chance we find out a week from Monday. We have no clue. Maybe we'll get a little bit of an idea tomorrow. But I've said this before. Now that Mickey Joseph has openly said on record that he would be open to coming back if the fit is right. If we come to find out that once Nebraska gets a new head coach, new whatever, and kind of the dust settles, if Mickey Joseph isn't a part of this thing going forward, that head coach is already starting one step back, in my opinion. Because now here's the deal. Here's where, just as my mind kind of wanders a little bit, Casey Thompson, I would bank on him returning as long as Mickey Joseph is here. And to have your quarterback back when you're going through a rebuild, through a transition, Nebraska needs all the stability they can get. You're not going to have that in your coaching staff next year outside of a couple, right? Maybe. And if that's the case, then you look at personnel, guys that have been there, and not transfers, but guys that have played for Nebraska in the Big Ten, right? We talked about that before. Now, although it's a small sample size in the Big Ten, specifically for Casey Thompson, when you compare your other quarterbacks or a transfer quarterback, he has the most. He has the most experience, unless you want to bring back Adrian Martinez. So, and I don't think you want to do that.
I think he's out of eligibility.
Yeah, I think he's out of eligibility as well. So I just think that's interesting. That interesting conversation and angle to look at it is how far back do you start if you're a head coach and you don't elect? It's your choice not to bring back Mickey Joseph or retain him. That's going to be very interesting going forward here.
Yeah, it will be. I wouldn't, I think it is. Mickey Joseph is one of the best and hottest recruiters among assistant coaches in the nation. Mm-hmm. So, there is that
if it's that decision on Mickey Joseph's part, if he gets a head coach, by all means, man, do your thing, thing, because we're going to be rooting for you.
It's just interesting though, because, you usually think it might be hard to force, interview, let's just say Matt Rule or whoever it is, and tell him, hey, you got to keep Mickey. And then he doesn't get his guys. And then, maybe he's got a wide receiver coach in mind or whatever. And that, maybe that just gets you off on the wrong foot. I don't think that Trev is probably walking into meetings saying,
no,
you're definitely keeping Mickey or you're not, you're not part of our search. The other thing is, as far as roster detention too, unfortunately for a new hire, you're thinking about 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, not next year. So
that's true.
It is, it would be better if they can keep him, and I think they can get off to a right start. I agree with you there, but ultimately I wouldn't put too much in my mind there. And then they've got some players that you want to retain as much. You don't want to go to the portal. LSU didn't have a whole lot and was able to rebuild. Nebraska probably not the recruiting territory LSU is, but I'm just saying, you're just not making your decision off of really any personnel from likely back-to-back 3-9 teams.
That's true.
You're just there's just nobody standing out that way.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the phone lines before we take a commercial break. Bill is on the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Bill, are you still there, man?
Yeah, we're still here. How you guys doing today?
Good, Bill. Thanks for being patient. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to go a little bit of a positive. I haven't been home to take a look at the numbers yet. But I know the defense was out on the field for about 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many possessions total Wisconsin had. But to be out on the field for 40 minutes and only give up 14 points, I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I know it's not great not being able to get off the field, but on the other hand, the offense wasn't able to move the ball and kind of caused a little bit about that as well. So just kind of curious what you guys think about that time of possession and the defense's performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Bill. I thought the defense for however many weeks in a row now played their hearts out, right? Like, it wasn't perfect by any means. Now, okay, it wasn't perfect. I want to navigate how I want to answer this. Okay, so it was not perfect, but it was good enough for Nebraska to win.
Mm-hmm.
For however many weeks in a row now, the defense has put together an effort to where it's been good enough to where the offense should have won or could have won that game.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm at with that. When it looked as bad as it did, and you gave up 45 points to Georgia Southern, when it was that bad,
right?
I'm okay with still, here's the deal. Wisconsin ran the ball for 263 yards or whatever it was today, and that's bad. But it wouldn't look as bad if you could run the ball on your own for 195 or for 212. We see that margin of Nebraska 263 to whatever Nebraska's rushing yards was this game, and you say, listen, it looks so bad because that margin is so wide. But if Nebraska is able to do their part on offense, Nebraska is able to get some push up front, get a running game together, that margin, number one, you have more sustainable offense to where your offensive drives are longer, where you maybe don't allow as many rushing yards on defense. And that margin shrinks to where it's a 263 to 195 difference. But like I said, those are just all the variables in the game. And when you can't get any push up front on first down, you get a loss of 3. Then you're behind schedule. You try to run it again because you want to stick with the running game. So you do that again. You get 4 yards. You're 3rd and 9. You're forced to pass. And you either have pressure on the quarterback, you have receivers that can't get open, or when they do, they might catch the ball or drop the ball. Mm. And so you need to fight through all of these other potential negatives that have been hurting you guys all season long in hopes of getting that one positive to get a first down when you're behind schedule. We talk about fragility and how fragile this team is. If they get behind schedule, you know exactly what they're going to do, and they might have the potential to make something happen, but the consistency in the body of work to make something happen over a consistent amount of time and sustainable, it just hasn't been there.
Yeah, and I think too, it feels like a tale as old of time, but it's only been like the last 5 games, but it is what it is. Nebraska has a better running half in the first half, doesn't get it done in the second half. And then, on the opposite side, it feels like Nebraska does what they need to do defensively. You limited Wisconsin to 3 points during the fourth quarter. That's spectacular.
You had a shutout in the first half.
Yeah. And then in the fourth quarter, you can't get the stop that you need to. And like you said, they did get 1.
Yeah.
But then the go-ahead score, obviously, that's the one I'm referring to there. And a lot of in that second half action, fourth quarter action was a lot of Wisconsin, not panicking, they're down, sticking to the run game, picking up yards in the ground game, get a big pass play there, and then take the lead. So, it's again the fourth quarter. who's tougher, who's been there before, all that sort of thing. And Nebraska has not, the defense, for as good as it's played, has not been able to stop that over the last several weeks. And that's Big Ten football. All that to be said, we don't talk probably enough about this. I think Bill Busch deserves a DC job. I don't know if that's at Nebraska. I don't think we're probably going to see that. But if I'm somebody around the nation and see the turnaround that he's been able to do, and some of it's just the numbers, or the at least scoring defense that he's put up with the lack of offense and how often his defense has been on the field. Hats off again to Bill Busch.
Yeah.
I mean, it is incredible what he's been able to do as far as the turnaround, and it continued today.
Let's go ahead and get to break. When we come back, we will hear a little bit more from Mickey Joseph. Also, we get this on the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream. Doesn't NIL kind of level the playing field in recruiting? And I kind of want to go against that because I don't think it plays as big of a factor as people may believe. So I want to kind of get to that here in a couple minutes. Let's go and take a break. Action Plumbing, Heating and Air, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brent Excavating, the sponsors for the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show. Thanks to them for all their support, their continued support, allowing us to do these post-game shows for you guys. And thanks to you guys. You guys have been awesome the entire show so far. Plenty of phone calls. We still do have one guy. Bob is on the line, but we have two lines open. So if you want to send us your thoughts, give us your thoughts, share them to the rest of Husker Nation, feel free to give us a call, 402-464-5685. Nick Sander, Jake Bachhoven. We'll be right back on the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show. 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champ Jay Foreman, and Aaron Davis, and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word, live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling, check. Arcade, check. Laser tag, check. Mini golf, check. Sand volleyball, cornhole, bocce, food, drinks, check. The newly renovated Sun Valley Lanes and Games has something fun to offer for guests of all ages.
Win prizes in the arcade or challenge your friends in one of the many attractions.
Plan a night of fun by reserving your spot online at sunvalleylanes.com.
Sun Valley.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have a right. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
A good game with good friends. But isn't it time to up the score when it comes to the food? Wings and Rings is here for every football fan. Catch the game on one of their big screens or snag a tailgate pack to go. They're cranking up the heat and throwing in mad flavor this season. Stop by your locally owned Wings and Rings on O Street, Meridian Park, or 48th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village, or grab some crave-worthy Wings and Rings to go. Make them your go-to destination to watch your team bring home the win. Wings and Rings. Game time just got better. Look at your car. It's filthy and probably has a few dings and nicks all over it. Don't be that guy. Get it upgraded and repaired at Renew Your Auto. At Renew Your Auto, they offer tons of services: ceramic coating, window tinting, paintless dent repair, washes and details, bed liners, body shop, and more. Where can you go to get services like that all in one place? Schedule your appointment today at renewyourauto.com. See what Renew can do for you.
Hey, who caught that ball? That field goal was good, right? Is the scoreboard fuzzy to anyone else?
Dude, you have got to get your eyes checked, man.
If you're noticing that the game is getting a little tougher to follow, it might be time for a checkup at Premier Vision. They have state-of-the-art equipment, a variety of frames, and great lens options. Visit Premier Vision today, just south of Van Dorn at 84th and Firethorn. Tractor Supply is looking for full-time team members for their Waverly Distribution Center. Tractor Supply has a new progressive pay model where team members receive 5 wage increases in the first 2 years of employment with the ability to earn up to $24 per hour. Applicants can expect a 3- and 4-day work week schedule with additional overtime days with both day and night shift schedules available. At Tractor Supply, they work hard, have fun, and make money. Apply today at tractorsupply.jobs.
At Koppel Chevrolet GMC, we are thankful for so many things this year, starting with our great employees, a generous community, our military personnel, and most importantly, our loyal customer base that continues to drive that money-saving mile of Louisville. Hi, this is Sean Callahan, and on behalf of everybody at Koppel, we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and safe travels to wherever they may take you. Happy holidays from Koppel Chevrolet GMC.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
Think about what you just said. So it's totally reliant on three-pointers going in. What kind of program is that?
They shoot a lot of them. They shot 27.
What kind of program are you if that's what it is?
Nebraska's not a very good program. That's very evident.
What kind of program says we have to hit our threes? That's just a crapshoot team. Then that's all that is.
What is Nebraska? Aren't they a crapshoot team?
Then that's all that is.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket. Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out.
Yeah, you don't have to talk to them because we talk. We're a family. We're not going to point fingers. So I don't have to talk to them because I know where they're thinking. They're thinking like this. We got to hold them. And the offense is thinking like this. We got to score 16 points. So we don't blame the fact. We don't play the pointing game. We're a family. We're going to stick together and we're going to fight through this.
There is Mickey Joseph after the game. Nebraska falls 15-14 at home in their final home game of the 2022 slate to the Wisconsin Badgers. Okay, I wanted to get to this part on the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream. Doesn't NIL kind of level the playing field in recruiting? It's just a matter of executing a program, and Nebraska has gotten really bad at it. So you think Nebraska, when I said I might disagree or push back on the NIL discussion, they responded with, so you think Nebraska will have a lack of money to compete with any program in the country? Come on, man. Now, I would say this. Right now, as it stands, I don't think NIL has as much power as we might believe. And I say that because this. Now, I was talking to a Nebraska football player on Tuesday. I'm going to keep him nameless. He is a starter for the Husker defense. And he looked at me and says, man, NIL isn't what you guys think it is. Because we were having this conversation about NIL. And he said, NIL isn't what you think it is. There are probably 2 or 3 players that get paid enough to make a living in NIL on a team. But everybody else just gets a $25 gift card a month at most. Now, that can obviously change when you are at a place like Alabama, like Texas. Well, maybe not Texas. Well, Texas has the resources and the funds. And they've done some NIL stuff. Or you have a big booster like John Ruiz down at Miami, or you have Texas A&M where they give their entire offensive line $50,000. Like, here's the only problem with it. Think about the guys that Nebraska's brought into through the portal this season. Casey Thompson is one. O'Shawn Mathis is the other. And we know we have an inclination that those guys are getting NIL funds. Mm-hmm. But you have a guy in O'Shawn Mathis that has 3.5 sacks on the season. Casey Thompson, unfortunately, has been injured. But think about how many players are on this roster. I mean, think about how much NIL do we think Marcus Washington is getting? How much NIL do we think Anthony Grant is receiving? So I don't know if going forward, you can talk about how NIL can sway a guy to go from LSU and he has to choose between Bama and Nebraska. Nebraska might be willing to fork up more money, but then you talk about winning games and you talk about program stability and where you're at as a program. I mean, if we think back to last offseason, Bach, Nebraska was pretty fortunate to get a guy like Trey Palmer. Nebraska was pretty fortunate to be in the running for a guy like Casey Thompson. And if you think about when they talk about why they came to Nebraska, it was because of the coach. NIL is a great added bonus, a great benefit. Marcus Washington wanted to come to Nebraska because of Mickey Joseph a little bit, but more importantly, because his quarterback came here. So when we think about NIL, yes, Nebraska has the resources, Nebraska has the money. I just don't know if it has as much power and effectiveness when you're talking about at a place like Nebraska, unfortunately.
Well, I think you can get a few, and I think there's some top-heavy NIL stuff going on there. I mean, they are, the 1890 initiative, all this stuff. I mean, this is trying to get organized, trying to moving forward, put Nebraska, really help put Nebraska back on the map. So, I mean, I do think NIL is a big part of it, but it's not the NFL where everybody on the roster is, going around making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I believe what you're saying. I think there are a few guys on the roster that are pretty well taken care of. And then everybody else that's just, getting deals here and there and, not big figure deals, just,
exactly
solid, like you said, gift
once
cards.
Again, it's more about at that point where if you're, for example, your monthly thing for NIL is a $25 gift card to Runza, am I choosing a program that loses and has had back-to-back 3-9 seasons for a $25 gift card every month? Or would I rather not get that $25 gift card every month and go to Illinois?
Yeah.
You have to, that's the conversations that are being had. And maybe Nebraska's able to step up. And I truly agree that there's a lot of money here. And Kip says this, you are dead wrong. We have plenty of money in that area. And once we win, people will pay big time. But you have to win first. And I guess that when we talk about the immediate future in the next 3 or 4 years, because that's basically the immediate future, when we talk about figuring out a way to stabilize this program and building it up and rebuilding it from a foundational standpoint, you're not going to be able to go into the NIL and find stability. You're going to be able, that is where the NIL can hurt. That's where the transfer portal can hurt you. Where it can benefit you, as we talked about last week, Bach, and I believe you and I agreed on this. You got to figure out a way to establish depth from the high school ranks, maybe the JUCO ranks. You can provide depth, and you can build it that way. Unfortunately, the fruits of the transfer portal will be felt and seen and experienced when you only need to go out and get 1 or 2 pieces to take you from a 7-win program to a 9-win program, or to replace a void of a second-round draft pick, or go out and take your team from an 8-win program to a team, and I said this on the pregame show, that could possibly get a New Year's Six bowl game and compete for a conference title. That is where you can really grow and experience the fruits of the transfer portal and how rewarding it is. But ask Michigan State. You go out, you hit a diamond in the rough in Kenneth Walker last year, but where does that put them for their program trajectory this season and coming up in the following years? It's same thing as Husker basketball, just on a bigger scale. You're dealing with more bodies. When you have no continuity, no stability with both coaches and leaders and also personnel, it's not a key for success.
Well, and I think more so than NIL and the transfer portal, Nebraska is going to have jobs available, right? I think that's where they are. And that's kind of where, that's how you got Trey Palmer along with the coach, right? But part of it is if Trey Palmer was balling out at LSU, he probably wouldn't have left. Mm-hmm. Trey Palmer wasn't getting minutes there. So I think Nebraska still provides, that opportunity. Hey, if you're not getting playing time, come over here. That's that's helpful for those type of programs, but that's not putting you over the top, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and they did. I mean, at times they've gotten good guys, but also, in the portal was kind of a mixed batch. I mean, ultimately this team's 3-8, but they did get the top edge rusher in O'Shawn Mathis, and they paid a lot of NIL money for that. We can see that. So sometimes it can help you win those things. Quarterback, and this is nothing against Casey. I just remember the timeline. I don't think they got their first quarterback they wanted out of the transfer portal. It seemed like they were 4th or 5th choice, and I'm not sure how much NIL had or did not have to play with that. So I mean,
and there's a little bit of a risk involved as well. I think when you operate the way that they kind of did last offseason, Bach, to where you're still a 3-8 team this year, but you might be a 3-8 team with just better players. Like you were a 3-9 team last year. If Nebraska goes out and play and is 3-9 this season again, you have back-to-back 3-9 seasons. You might just say, well, listen, you got some talent out of the transfer portal. You have better talent and better players than you did last year. You upgraded, but at the root of it all, you're still a 3-9 team, and you're still just a better, a more talented 3-9 team. Like at the end of the day, the risk that you took and invested in through the transfer portal specifically did not resort into wins. And that's where, once again, you have to have that foundation and that stability. Unfortunately, you just have to, that's where it's like the one piece where with or without them, you're an 8-win and you're a pretty decent football team. But with that player, you have the potential to jump to the next level.
Yeah.
That's where I think Nebraska is in a sticky situation.
And I still don't think this team, for what it's worth, is as talented as last year's. And I think that was part of the
defense, probably,
weird situation to kind of, you had 2 second-round picks out of last year's team.
Well, and you had a defensive line coach that left, and who had a lot of recruiting ties. And you have,
JoJo Doman,
that's true,
tied into the year. Austin Allen. I mean, they had a
lot of experienced COVID seniors. A lot, Deontay Williams. So I think there was there. One man, many things on the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream says, "Can one of you please speak freely and just freak the hell out?" I would say I speak pretty free. I'm not too worried about any repercussions. And we usually get that out in the first segment.
Yeah,
I think I got that out in the first segment, and we're good to go. But all right, let's go and get to our final timeout. When we come back, we'll kind of have a wrap up segment where we just kind of put our final thoughts on this one, 15-14 loss against the Badgers for Nebraska, and kind of look forward to see next weekend's game against Iowa, how ugly that one's going to be, unfortunately. And when we're projecting to hear maybe about a new coach, who knows? We'll talk about that. Wrap up the Husker Afterparty Postgame show coming up next before we hand it off to the folks over at Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill. Make sure you go out and hang out with them. Jake Sorensen and the guys will be out there to take you through the rest of your afternoon, give their thoughts on this 15-14 loss. But we'll be right back. Husker Afterparty Postgame show. Nick Sander, Jake Bachhoven, hanging out with you guys on 93.7 The Ticket.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly schedules a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Hey, who caught that ball? That field goal was good, right? Is the scoreboard fuzzy to anyone else?
Dude, you have got to get your eyes checked, man.
If you're noticing that the game is getting a little tougher to follow, it might be time for a checkup at Premier Vision. They have state-of-the-art equipment, a variety of frames, and great lens options. Visit Premier Vision today, just south of Van Dorn at 84th and Firethorn.
At Koppel Chevrolet GMC, we are thankful for so many things this year, starting with our great employees, a generous community, our military personnel, and most importantly, our loyal customer base that continues to drive that money-saving mile of Louisville. Hi, this is Sean Callahan, and on behalf of everybody at Koppel, we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and safe travels to wherever they may take you. Holidays from Koppel Chevrolet GMC.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
$24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
This show's pretty rockin', huh?
Yeah, I'm so glad my State Farm agent helped me go.
Huh?
My State Farm agent. They help me with options to personalize my auto insurance to get a great rate that fits my budget, so I don't have to give up the things I love.
Wow. Hey, so do you think I could get your State Farm agent's number?
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Individual premiums and budgets will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
There's nothing quite like the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese Beef. The Mercado offers unique ingredients you can't find anywhere else, open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The full-service butcher shop and retail store is wonderful for meat lovers with their exclusive certified Piedmontese beef and assorted sausages, plus other quality meats, including pork, chicken, and a wide range of the freshest seafood. Plus, every Friday from 11 to 2, the Mercado serves up the best lunch in town on their Friday Feast menu. Stop in at the Mercado today at 84th and Havelock or visit their website at cpmercado.com to see current deals.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's Post-Game Show and the Final Word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's Post-Game Show and the Final Word, live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
A good game with good friends. But isn't it time to up the score when it comes to the food? Wings and Rings is here for every football fan. Catch the game on one of their big screens or snag a tail great pack to go. They're cranking up the heat and throwing in mad flavor this season. Stop by your locally owned Wings and Rings on O Street, Meridian Park, or 48th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village, or grab some crave-worthy Wings and Rings to go. Make them your go-to destination to watch your team bring home the win. Wings and Rings. Game time just got better.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions. Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, got a couple minutes left here. Husker Afterparty Postgame Show, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Nick Sainer, Jake Bockoven with you guys. Let's go to the phone lines. Bob's been waiting patiently. Bob, are you still there, man? Nope. All right, cool. Sounds good. All right, sorry, Bob. All right, let's we'll close the door on the phone calls here. We got about 3 minutes left here before we hand the baton off to the folks over at Tanner's Bar and Grill. 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline, the Starter Hammond text line. both those open for you guys the rest of the way and throughout the rest of the afternoon. Bach, final thoughts on this one here.
Well, obviously not the result you wanted. I think, again, good job for Nebraska, kind of game planning in my estimation. I like the conservativeness, trying to play a Big Ten West game. Again, you're doing it from a standpoint where you're doing it a little bit far behind because Wisconsin's been doing it for 20 years. Ultimately, it's kind of the same old story. Nebraska comes up short in the fourth quarter in the critical plays that they need to make to win this game. That being said, I am very excited for the chance to be spoiler. Iowa right now up 10-0 on Minnesota. If that score holds, I will be coming into that game, and it's not in, I shouldn't say coming into that into Lincoln, but they'll be going into Iowa City next week with the chance to win the Big Ten West. If you're not going to go bowling, if you're not going to have, a huge season, it's good to be play the spoiler role. I feel pretty confident Nebraska can be in that game. Unfortunately, it's going to go probably the same route where Iowa makes the plays in the end that they need to win. But either way, guys, there's 1 week of Husker football left. And I know a lot of people have kind of checked out waiting for that head coaching hire. There's going to be a lot to look forward to this offseason, but there won't be a lot of football. So please, even if this game style isn't the one that you like the most, let's get pumped up one more time. Yeah. It's Iowa week. It's Hate Iowa week. And let's see if we can play some spoiler.
Yeah, so Huskers, Iowa Hawkeyes, I believe that game kicks off at 3 p.m. next Friday, I should say. It could be a start of an interesting week here in the Husker Athletic Department. We have about a minute left here. I guess my final thoughts, just frustrating. Unfortunately, Nebraska just comes up short once again. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed and need to be attended to. And DP has said it so many times, and so has Jay Foreman. But I saw DP tweeted out a couple times today, hardest thing for a program to do is finish. Hardest thing for a team to do is to finish. And Nebraska's still searching for ways and figuring out ways for however many years now to try to finish games on a consistent basis. And it's heartbreaking as Husker fans. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon, I suppose. It's only 4 p.m. We'll send it out to the guys at Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill. I will be in Iowa City next week, so I'll be joining the post-game show from the press box at Hawkeye Stadium. But until then, go Big Red.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling, check. Arcade, check.